In this lesson, I'm going to go over how to create a custom title block template inside of Fusion 360. The custom title block that we are going to emulate can be seen down here. So let's jump into Fusion 360 and recreate this title block. Inside of Fusion 360, we are going to go up to the application panel, over to our file menu, and then down to new drawing template. In the dialog box, we are going to create a template from scratch. We are going to use the ASME standard. We are going to be using inches as our unit, and I prefer using sheet size B because it gives us a little bit more room than the traditional 8.5 by 11 sheet size. And then press OK. Once you have gotten over to the template workspace, Fusion 360 wants you to land a placeholder part. Left click to land this part at any location, and then press OK in the placeholder view dialog box. We want to edit this existing title block that's here. So in our browser list, under sheet settings, we are going to hit the down caret and then right click on title block and go to edit title block. Notice in here we have a whole variety of different options here. You can go and edit the existing one, you can create a new one, or you can create a new one from a DWG drawing. We are going to create a new title block from this existing geometry that's here. We are going to edit the name to Cougar MFG Student, and then press OK. Once we have done this, Fusion 360 will open up the edit window for our title block. Just like creating a sketch, we can put in a whole variety of different geometry, as you can see in your toolbar. You can modify the existing geometry. You can add text and also attributes. You can add images, and then also you can measure things inside here. Now, the text that you currently see in blue, this is what Fusion 360 calls an attribute. An attribute is different than this other black text in here in the fact that you can edit attributes inside of a drawing. However, you cannot edit the text inside of a drawing view. So please be mindful of that. So the very first thing that we are going to take a look at in our title block is we are going to clean up some things that we do not need for our title block. First and foremost, the couple things that we don't need is we don't need our code in here. So I'm going to delete those. And I'm also going to delete this dividing line here. And I'm going to take my drawing numbers and I'm going to drag those over. Like so. In addition, I only use the first title on my title block. So I'm going to delete these other two here. And I'm going to drag my title down. Right about here. And then I'm also going to drag the dividing bar down. And don't be afraid if you make a mistake, you can always trim things up. So notice if I zoom in here, this dividing bar's got a little bit of an overlap there, but that's okay. We can always trim it at the very end. So again, notice how this is extending over here. I'm just going to go up to modify and to trim. And notice it trims it over for me. I'm going to do the other side the same exact way. Afterwards, I'm going to delete my project name. Not going to need that. And in this space right here, I am going to insert my company logo. So back to our toolbar, insert to image. I'm going to insert this image from my computer. And then I'm going to choose the image that I want here. And then I'm going to land my image and press OK. You can always move your image and scale it as soon as you have landed it. So for example, I'm going to move this down to this corner here. Like so. And then afterwards, I'm going to kind of scale it and make it a little bit bigger by just dragging it open. It's a little finicky on this, but just keep up the hard work and eventually it'll land in the location you want it to be in. All right, that seems pretty close to where I want it. So notice that my logo here, my company logo, kind of extends above this vertical line or this horizontal line for our title block, and that's okay. We're just going to take that and we're just going to drag it up a little bit. Again, don't worry about this. We're going to trim away a lot of this stuff that we don't need at the very end and clean it all up. It's right about there. Now, I have this big white space over here. I'm going to put a divider right down the center of it. I'm going to add a vertical line to my geometry, and I'm just going to drag that vertical line down like so. And then I'm going to draw a horizontal line going across, and that will create like a header there. Notice that some of my lines aren't overlapping here, and all I'm doing is I'm just going to drag those up. Again, you can always trim this stuff off later on. So if they overlap like they do right now, don't worry about that because you can always edit them. In this window right over here, I'm going to type in a proprietary and confidential statement. So I'm going to use a regular text. So up in your toolbar, a regular text. And I'm going to drag out a text box like so. And I'm going to type in proprietary and confidential. And these statements are commonly used in big engineering and manufacturing firms. This statement is just basically indicating that if you're making this part, you are not to be sharing this with anybody else. And notice all I'm doing is I'm adjusting my height here. That way I can better fit it into this box. And I changed the justification of my text to centered. And we want to drag this open a little bit and try to center it up as best as we can in this box here. Like so. Now, if you're lazy like I am, is now that I have everything, my justification set, my text size set on this particular one, all I'm going to do is Control C, and we are going to transform that by hitting Control V, and I'm just going to move the other one into location. So again, I'm using the Windows command Control C, Control V. Control C will copy it, Control V will paste, and then I'm just dragging that pasted item over. Afterwards, I can double click on this, and this one we are going to put in the tolerance block. Okay. And notice how it kind of extended over here. That's fine. If it extends over there, I just have to drag this down a little bit. And again, you can change the justification here. Looks like I need to just give it a little bit more room to get it to fit in there. Like so. And then looks like I'm going to need just a tad bit more room over here. So all I'm going to do is just kind of drag this over just a tad. And then this horizontal line, I can move that guy up. And that's looking pretty good now. And again, we're just kind of just shifting some things around. Until everything looks proper. Again, if your lines are too short, you can always drag those over. And don't be afraid to have them overlapping because we can always trim those at a later time. And then I'm going to adjust these and just drag those over. And notice how I'm holding down Shift right now. I'm selecting all three. That way I can keep the spacing the same. And that's looking pretty good. While I'm here, I'm just going to do some cleanup work. I'm going to trim off the extra entities here, these line entities, just to clean up that space. Like so. I'm going to leave this one a little long because we're going to use that at the very end. Next thing, I'm going to put in my statement for my confidentiality statement here. I'm going to drag out my text box. I'm going to type in the statement. Okay, I've got my statement in here. Obviously, my statement goes way, way beyond my text box, and that's okay. We're just going to change our text height. And this is where you just kind of got to play around with the actual height. So I tried 90 thousandths. Let's try 70 thousandths. 70 thousandths is a little bit too big. We'll try 80 thousandths. 80 thousandths is looking pretty good. Same thing like I did before is I'm going to copy and paste. And then in our tolerance block here, we're going to start the tolerance block with dimensions are in inches. And again, once this is done, I'm going to come in and try to justify it as best as I can. I may have to change some of the dimensions on here. That's looking pretty good. And all I did is I cleaned up some of the justifications. I did a center justification here. I did center up here on the dimensions are in inches, and did a left justification on our actual tolerances. And that just kind of cleaned up the appearance on there. The last thing that we need to add in on our title block here is we need to add in our notes. So I'm going to draw a text box here. And then we're going to take that note here and we're just going to shift it around. And extend that open. And then we can change its overall size from 120 thousandths. And we can change that down to like 80 thousandths. And then that will give us some room later on if we want to add some more notes here. And then I'm going to hit a carriage return here. That way that statement is on its own separate line there. All right. Now we got our notes in here. We're just going to add in a horizontal line. Again, be mindful that you can extend over the top here, and you can always drag it into position. And this line that was over on the side, we're just going to drag that up and kind of build that around. Afterwards, we're going to trim everything away, like so. And there is our title block. After you are done, you're going to hit this green check box up here, and that will finish your title block. As you will see that this title block looks very similar to the one that we were replicating from. We made a couple little revisions on there. Afterwards, you are going to save this title block template, and I would highly suggest saving it into a folder where all of your title blocks exist. That way later on you can go back and reference off of them. So we're going to set that up for you right now. We're going to hit the save button. And we are going to reference this as our Cougar MFG student. And then the location is I would create a new project location. For you guys, you don't have a folder yet. But I do have a folder labeled as templates. And notice that I have a whole variety of different templates inside here. Afterwards, hit that save button. And this completes the tutorial on how to create a title block in Fusion 360.